Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Mind Muscle Connection podcast. And today I have a very special guest on, Astrid Naranjo. I hope I said that right. Good. We're going to pass. I'm sure I could improve that. But Astrid, if you aren't familiar with her, she is a clinical dietitian. She works in a hospital setting with mental health and rehab patients, but she is known for being a dietitian for over 10 years and a nutritionist who has helped hundreds of clients transform their relationship with food and their bodies. She's a coach at Team BioLane and is also a writer for Weightology. And there was one other thing I wanted to add to that. Let me think if I can remember what it was. It will come to me. Wait, I'm drawing a blank. Either way, welcome to the show. I'm going to think of it here in a minute once you start talking. But yeah, welcome to the show and appreciate you taking time out of your day to come on here.
Oh, it's a pleasure to be here and super excited and glad that I can spread the message and knowledge about the topics that we're going to cover today.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is what it was. So if you may know her on Instagram as the anti-diet dietitian. So I feel like you got, I think, over 100,000 followers on Instagram at this point. Your message is definitely out there and it continues to spread. But yeah, people probably know you as the anti-diet dietitian. Yep.
Yeah, hopefully we can clarify or talk a little bit about that because I get so many messages every day like, how the hell are you anti-diet? But there's not really much of a anti-diet message. So it is an
Yeah.
interesting topic to discuss.
Yeah, no, for sure. I definitely want to touch base on that. So I guess, and this will probably lead into that, is maybe just give a kind of brief background on how you got to where you're at today. And I would like to tie that into the anti-diet dietitian aspect of it. And yeah, we'll go from there.
So my story is interesting because I used to live back at home in South America. So I am from Venezuela originally. And I used to just be a dietitian that was training coaches and general population to just eat healthier and eat better and modify their lifestyle to improve their body composition. So I was mostly like a sports dietitian slash fitness dietitian orientated for the most part, which is something that I have carried for my entire career. I still do all of what I used to do. But on top of that, obviously with the years, I had to move to Australia and that was 10 years ago. And when I moved to Australia, I did my master's degree, which was in dietetics and practice, but there was a few pieces here and there that added to my background and knowledge, which was motivational interviewing and a lot more communication with your clients and how do you negotiate and partner with your clients to actually make shared decisions and actually make them durable and optimal for the client to actually execute. I think that may have modified a little bit the way I used to coach and work with patients in the hospital, because initially when you get trained as a dietitian, you get trained to be a dietitian in a hospital. You don't necessarily get trained to be a coach or a nutrition coach or work with clients online. Like none of that ever existed, and none of that was something that we thought we needed to be trained at until obviously online nutrition coaching was much more a thing and people started needing more that service, which was a demand online a little bit more, especially I think it's always been there, but especially after COVID, I think something boomed with everything being online. And now everything is much more optimized in terms of the tools coaches have to implement and improve the service when it comes to do nutrition coaching and everything online. I think part of what it really helped me to streamline my approach and the way I work was probably a lot of personal struggles and lots of different things that I had to endure myself over even before coming to Australia. Just obviously when you're a coach, when you are a public figure, someone who is on social media, people are looking up to you and they are wanting to look for a role model. And you have this kind of pressure that you need to show up and show what you preach. So it was a really hard point to try to meet in a place where I was showing who I was, but I also was showing something that people could admire and could follow as a role model. Like, who is gonna, like, that was something that was in my mind. Who is gonna follow a dietitian who is not in shape, or who is, oh, she's a sport dietitian but she's fat, like that? In my mind, it was like, that doesn't make sense. So obviously, with studying nutrition, and you start learning about meal plans and dieting and all of those things, I'm not gonna lie, you can get pretty obsessed about it. And you can get to, if you're not very careful, you can get to a very extreme, dangerous place. Because you want to do right for what you want to achieve. And especially if you're an entrepreneur and you're trying to launch a business, you are the only figure and the image of your name and your brand. So you have to look like someone who is worth following or listening to. So I think that on its own impacted a lot the way I used to work with my relationship with food and my exercise. Like, I became really extreme at exercising. I was exercising 2 to 3 hours a day, every day. I wouldn't have a day of rest. And I also had a very poor relationship with food. I had such a mentality of, there were everything carbs that weren't necessarily good carbs, were actually really bad carbs, and there were fats. It would make you fat straight away, and things that had olive oil or butter or anything like that, I would already, if I had eaten them at that point, I would feel like I had already cellulite in my legs. It was this automatic nonsense thoughts and fears I developed, like that obviously brought bulimia and lots of different things with my relationship with food. Obviously, once you move to a new place and the other side of the world to begin with, it's not just to the corner, I had to start from scratch. Like, no one knows you, no one has a clue who you are. You're no longer anyone. And adding to that, I had to learn a new language, because my original language is Spanish. So I am native speaker of Spanish. And I had such a hard time translating in my mind everything I knew from, I was like super confident doing everything I used to do. I used to run nutrition workshops with patients, with clients, with coaches. And then suddenly I am no one, and I can't communicate. I can't transmit my message. And so it wasn't like a time for me of a shock, but I also like, now that I don't have anything that I have to show up for, because no one really knows me anymore, I had to really think about my relationship with food and who I was and my body image and all of that. So it was a period of a hard transition for me, because then I was showing to the gym, but there was no longer that pressure that I needed to show up on a workshop or anything else. So it truly challenged my whys and my purpose and why I was doing certain things for people and for myself. So you can imagine how this is shaping the way I start treating myself and transforming my inner purpose and the relationship that I had with myself, and also to understand better my relationship with food and why I was restricting so much stuff and overeating when I was able to eat, because that was that scarcity mindset that you develop when you completely eliminate foods and you label foods as good or bad. So that was like a very important transition for me that happened over 4-5 years, Then I started my Instagram from scratch and started just posting stuff. I didn't even know how to even communicate on a social media. So I was just posting random stuff until like I on purpose and putting things out and learning from other people. Okay, I think I need to learn how to put together an infographic. How the hell do I do that? I have no clue. I'll just figure it out. So I got into Canva finally after downloading like 29, 30 apps and just knowing that didn't work. So Canva was hitting the spot. Okay, not too bad. Okay, let's now figure out how to do it. Because I didn't do a course. I didn't it was such a early times that I didn't even know where to go, what to do, anything. So pretty much I endure and put everything slowly to where I finally started knowing what I wanted and I needed to do to communicate and put out a message. And then I started following a lot of different people in the industry that we nowadays know they are like the evidence-based faces of nutrition, which is Lane Norton, Alan Aragon, Brant Schoenfield, and Brett Contreras, and we can name many more. But for the most part, they were like my eye openers into a lot of different issues that I had with my relationship with food. So I said, look, I just need to work on myself. And there are a lot of different things that need to change. And so one of those were stop over obsessing with food. I definitely stopped tracking and doing a lot of different things that were just leading me to getting even more obsessed with food. And I started transitioning to a period where I may have gained 10, 15 pounds, but I was no longer over obsessing with exercise. And I just needed that healing. And on top of that, I had lost my period for 3 years before coming to Australia. So imagine 3 years without my period. I wasn't the leanest person, but I know I definitely was pretty messed up internally with everything that I was doing. So I got my period back. I was eating back just a bit more normal. And I was trying to normalize my lifestyle around what I was trying to do. So that's where I think anti-diet dietitian came about. I was just searching for a name that could be representing a bit of my story, but also when I started working with clients, like looking at the biggest problems in the industry and why a lot of people lose weight, gain all the way back, is mostly related to that obsession of trying to do things super fast and doing those crash diets and things that are so superficial. They can be very intense, can be like 100% all or nothing, like you either do it or just go away. If you don't do it this way, then you probably are not getting it right. There were so many different fad diets emerging at that point as well. Like we had the keto diet and celery and detoxes and stuff. Like I was looking at so many different things that I said, this is why a lot of people are falling into this trap of trying to find a miracle that will get them to lose weight and that super fast. But then once that ends, they don't have a exit plan. They don't have anything to do. Okay, what's the diet after the diet? Like, how is your nutrition going to look like after you have finished your diet? There's no plan. There's no structure. You haven't learned anything. You haven't changed your behavior and your mindset. You can still be thinking about once you finish your diet, you're going to get back to eating pizza every night and donuts for breakfast and having a very poor diet overall and eating zero protein. So that was like where I try to put together my anti-diet. I'm not opposed to dieting as long as it's with the correct approach, with the right strategies, with the right mindset. And I guess this is one of the things that I am a really good proponent at is you can have the exercise really well planned. You can follow the best diet, but if your mindset is not right and is not aligned with your goals, and you don't learn about changing your behaviors and your habits, you can do everything perfect on this end, but this is going to be a link, a very loose link that is going to end up messing up with the rest. So you have this trifecta that needs to be in a perfect place in order for you to master weight loss, not just for the short term, but forever. So when I came with the name anti-diet is just really anti-crush dieting. I just couldn't put together a name that was so long. So I just said, look, I will have to explain it. So that is where I'm coming from. It's mostly I'm proponent of use the right approaches, work on your mindset first, work on how you deal with bad days, which we pretty much we all are, as humans, are really bad at dealing with bad days. And then if we failed, or we think we fail at what we were meant to be doing, then we feel like we fucked up and we're a failure. And then why should I continue pushing if I just fucked up? Like, what the hell? I just started Monday. So these mindsets and all of these things are one of the pillars that I push forward to my clients. And for like to anyone who listens to my message is you need to really find that piece, that missing link that is required for you to actually master anything that is related to your physique. Because it's not just about weight loss. It's also about gaining muscle. It's also about just maintaining your weight. It's also about some of those that need to make some body changes and body recomposition, that we can find that some people just need that, or people that just need to do a proper reverse diet, or get out and just eat better. So it applies to a lot more than just weight loss. It applies to your diet and how you just live a lifestyle that aligns with your purpose and your core beliefs and core values. And also you can drag that for the rest of your life.
Yeah,
Sorry, it
no,
was a bit.
no, hey, that was perfect. I love the background on it. And yeah, that's basically what sounds like the anti-diet. It came from, again, not that, again, you're anti-diet, it's just that you're anti, like you said, crash dieting, basically methods that aren't sustainable and aren't great from a long-term perspective, there on that. And I'm glad you also hit on hey, obviously the nutrition, the training protocols and stuff are super important. But again, if your mindset's not there, that is going to be something that really holds you back. And again, you might be somebody that does fall prey to some of these crash dieting tactics and things like that. So really focusing on the mindset side of things is key there. And again, this is definitely something that I do want to chat with you about today. So I guess maybe you did hit on your philosophy, but is that kind of what you would say is your philosophy around coaching? Do you have maybe anything that you want to add there from that perspective or anything like that?
Basically, that's what I pretty much do. So when you say my philosophy, you mean how do I work with my clients and what do I do, or what specifically?
Yeah. Is there anything that any other, again, it sounds like you're anti, hey, like you said, dieting from a crash diet perspective, but do you have any other like philosophies that you typically try to follow, like when you coach your clients or anything like that?
The majority of the times, I truly try to use a holistic approach when I work with my clients. And I think any evidence-based coach will try to do that and understand your client's background, their history, their preferences, their struggles, truly see the human that we're working with rather than just a number or what's their weight, what's their BMI, which are numbers that we will need to make a lot of calculations to get our macros, to get our calories, to get our BMR, to get a lot of different numbers that we will use in order to make a plan and forecast what is going to be happening in the next 3, 6, 12 months that the client is going to work with us. But the point is initially to know that we're working with a human being that is pretty much needing you to help them find out what's wrong, what's going on, and how can you present a different perspective and strategies that can help really this client to find that sustainability and that transformation they need to achieve. And the biggest thing for me when I am working with a client is truly think about where they are at the point that I meet them, and try to get them slowly to realize that the one thing that they need to start leaving behind is their old identity and their old behaviors and mindsets. And sometimes some people are in a pretty bad place. Some other people aren't as bad. So I guess it's just understanding where they are at that point that you work with them, and try to identify where could be the loose links that they don't know, because obviously that's why they're stuck. So when you start looking at certain things, and then you start bringing conversations that allows them to reflect and allows them to have this like aha moments. Oh, this is everything that's been happening. Like I didn't even realize. Like you have these conversations, and your clients are amazed that they never thought about those perspective or those points. So that is shaping their new strategy, their new reality. Okay, this is how do I need to do things. This is who I need to think about. This is who I want to become. I need to show up like the person that I want to become. So it's giving them the support and the strategies that are going to get them to where they need to be, but also letting them come up with some strategies and come up with their own solutions rather than you giving them everything. So it's facilitating rather than all the time telling them what to do or what to eat. Like even though I am a dietitian and I was taught initially that you give meal plans and you design meal plans, I think meal plans can be helpful, but at the same time can be quite disabilitating in terms of, okay, so I just follow the meal plan, and once something is out of the meal plan, what do I do? You don't really know what to do. I don't know if I use the right word, disabilitating or handicap. I don't know.
They both make sense.
Okay. So yeah, it's not helping you learning about your food, about your choices, and how to play with your food. So like trying to find a solution when it comes to meal planning, I said there needs to be a more flexible way to meal plan that allows you to learn, but also allows you to have a structure. And especially if you're someone who doesn't want to be tracking for the rest of your life, or you just are not one of those that likes tracking, because potentially could trigger something that makes you get too obsessive about stuff and takes you to the other side. So we know that there are a spectrum of personalities. There are people that need just to have some format that is not tracking. And I am not saying that tracking is bad whatsoever. I just think that there are tools that are appropriate for each individual. And some tools are going to be good or better for some, and some others can be damaging or just triggering. So it's just knowing that, again, understanding what your background is and how your relationship with food is, and what is your best method to do things or learn things. That is where you use out of the toolbox what is going to be the most appropriate.
Yeah. And so again, it sounds like you want to teach people how to fish. You don't want to like fish for them, right? You want to teach them how to do it. And so then that way they have the tools to be able to make these choices on their own. And as you mentioned, just giving somebody a meal plan, or again, I had somebody ask me about using a meal prep service. It's, hey, those things are great. They're going to help you get to your goal. At the same time, I would like you to also, we need to have some flexibility so you can learn how to do some of these things on your own. Because if you just use, again, just like you, I'm not anti meal prep service or anything like that. It's just, if that's what you rely on, it's what are you going to do when that is done. So again, teaching people how to, again, fish, and then that way they know how to do it on their own versus just telling them what to do there with that. And then also, yeah, diving a little bit deeper in terms of, hey, each person's going to have their own limiting factors on what that is, and diving a little bit deeper and figuring out what that is sounds like what your kind of philosophy is when it comes to nutrition. Was there anything else there that you wanted to add, or did I sum that up pretty well there?
Pretty well.
Cool. And so I think what would also be pretty cool to chat about real quick is you mentioned how you struggled with some of these issues and that, like what got you into being with the anti-diet philosophy and stuff like that. How's it now? What does your kind of nutrition look like now? What does your training look like? I think people would be really curious to hear how you overcame it and what it looks like on your end now at this point.
I think I'm at a point where I'm actually quite impressed in terms of how much better the way I work and my relationship with food is, just because there was something that I decided to change in my when it comes to eating, that truly changed the way I eat. So nowadays I set my intentions when it comes to, okay, why, especially when it comes to eating out, or when it comes to events or socializing, which was for me a huge trigger to just pocket or just to lose it and feel super anxious about it and super stressed about it. And I usually would go pretty bad. Like it would be like, oh, I'm going to fast the entire day so I can save up my calories to when I eat, then I can have room for everything. Now, that is a really bad strategy because you're so starving and so food focused that the least thing you do when you're in a social situation is being social, because you're so hungry. Like you're just fucking ravenous and you just want to eat. So what if you are intentional about what is the purpose or the outcome of that social situation, or that eating experience, let's put it that way. So if I am going to a restaurant with my family, is it about the food because we want to eat and enjoy the food? Or is it about creating memories and spending time with your loved ones? It is asking yourself that question and being super honest about it. Okay, I truly like eating on that restaurant, but I also want to find a happy medium where I can pay attention and be present and spend time with my loved ones. And I also aware of what my physique goals are. So it's putting everything into balance and trying to be okay with negotiating as to what is the best course of action to do something right. So nowadays, because I do ask myself that question, I am not getting super anxious about those events, or I go prepared. I go with some snacks here and there if I know that I don't even know what may be presented in terms of food. So I just go prepared. So mentally, I don't feel like I'm going to starve if there's anything that I wouldn't eat. But I also don't go fasted or hungry. I actually, before I go to anywhere, I make sure I'm not hungry. So I eat before I go, and I eat normally throughout the day. And when I get to the place, if I decide I want to nibble things here and there, I do, but I'm not over excessively thinking about it or obsessing about eating everything. and not being present. So I've been way more enjoying so much more. And I recently say this because I traveled to the US and I went on to a cruise, and I actually lost weight on the cruise. That had never happened ever in my life, because the intention was different. Like, I wasn't like running to the buffet and trying to eat 20 plates of different things. It was like, okay, why am I here for? And I was seeing my grandma after 8 years without being able to see her. So to me, the intention was, I want to be present for her and I want to be with her. So I would just go early, had breakfast. I was just decided to have whatever I really wanted to enjoy that I would normally don't have at home. And it felt like I gave myself permission to eat something nice. I would never eat avocado and smoked salmon and eggs. Like, it was so much fat that before, to me, it was like, that's not permitted, like too much. But I said, look, I may do eat a little bit less carbs throughout the day, but I want to feel satiated and feel good. So I ate that, I gave myself permission, and then I moved on. I wouldn't go to and repeat and seek for something else. Like, I was like, I'm good. I went and I had the time to be present and feed and help my grandma to eat and was present. The same thing happened throughout the day. Like, I wasn't all the time thinking about, okay, when I do eat again, it was like, okay, if I'm hungry, I know this food is available and I can go and eat. So it's just shifting little things that before were to me like a big thing. So that I've kept that philosophy over these past few months, and I haven't tracked a thing, and I have continued to lose some body fat. So I'm not saying this to say that you don't need to track or any of that, but it's just how this mindset shift has allowed me to be so more food focused and always be intentional as to why am I eating. And same when we do reflect on emotional eating or boredom eating. So why are you eating in the first place? What are you doing in terms of what are you trying to escape from, or what are you trying to solve? So trying to understand the root and the intentions and the purpose helps you so much to understand why you eat in the first place, and remembering your whys, who you want to become and who you want to show up for. So those things really make a huge difference. In terms of my training, honestly, I have been training for over 20 years and I love training. That to me is something that I don't have to think too much about it. I show up to the gym 4 days a week. If I just I'm not feeling it, because let's be honest, there's some times in our lives that we don't even have a goal, and we just show up and we just keep doing what makes us feel good. But there's no, oh, I want to grow muscle or I want to lift 200 kilos in a deadlift. Sometimes I just want to be. I don't want to go for PRs. I don't want to. Sometimes that's where I want to be. And sometimes I like, fuck yeah, I want to lift 200 kilos. Like, I really want to do PRs. So, but now, like, I'm in just a place where I have so much things going on and so much projects and stress. Like, I just need to be balanced and just want to be. I want to continue doing the things that make me feel good and more for self-care, show up to the gym, enjoy my training sessions, especially for just get my mind somewhere else and not having to think about work. And that's what I'm doing now. I do work pretty hard. I'm always train pretty low RIRs. I don't work like very low reps. I like a rep range between 10 to 15 is my favorite rep range. So I would always work around that rep range, but I try to push to low RIRs. I train hard. And I love supersetting sometimes just for the sake of making it interesting and reducing the time I spend in the gym, because I can literally spend 2 hours if I rest so much or if I do set after set. So that's what probably I do for training. I like doing upper, lower, split. Sometimes I do full body, just depending on, again, how I'm feeling. I don't have right now like a training program for a specific goal, but I follow that structure.
Cool. Yeah. So it sounds, yeah, with the training side of things, not really trying to push anything right now. If you feel good, you're going to go in and push it. If not, hey, it's all right to take a step back for a day if you feel like you need it, and just to balance everything out in your life as you're busy with, like you said, work and everything like that. You got your hands in multiple different things. So I can imagine that sometimes training, obviously it's important to you, but sometimes it has to take a backseat to your work and things like that. So cool. I guess one thing that I did want to bring up, I had a client recently talk to me about this, and I feel like you'd be a good person to talk about this. And it's just this time of year is mentally dealing with some weight gain. So is there anything that you would say to a client, or I'm sure that you have some clients that are dealing with this right now, but especially during the holidays, but also just in general, is there any advice there with that? I'm curious to hear your thoughts on that.
You mean recent weight gain, or
Yeah,
like
just
what is the specific scenario?
Yeah, so just mentally dealing with a little bit of weight gain during the holiday season. Holidays, a little bit more enjoyment, a little bit more food in general, things like that. Somebody that isn't necessarily trying to be in like a, surplus or anything like that, but they just are because of where things are at. So like, how would you handle that situation with a client if somebody's like mentally struggling with seeing their scale weight come up a little bit during the holiday season?
First of all, I would try to see what were they doing beforehand, especially because if they were like already on track doing something, we just need to get back onto it and just try to continue finding the rhythm and getting more momentum back as to what they were doing. If they were already on some form of plan, or they were already on a specific fat loss phase, or whatever it is. So it's just getting back onto that plan without trying to overcompensate or slashing calories even further, or trying to add more cardio, or doing things that are just likely to get you burnt out, or making you much more fatigue that is needed, and bring dieting fatigue even faster than what it should be. So sometimes these arrangements in our nutrition and exercise, just to compensate for a relatively short period of time that weight gain occurred, which at the end of the day, it could be handled better if you would have utilized better strategies and like a different mindset, but you can't reverse the time. So if the damage is already there, you need to just get back on track and maybe just learn about if it happens again, because it will happen again. Christmas is going to come again. New Year's is going to come again. Thanksgiving, other potential festivity days, your birthday, your mom's birthday, whatever. You'll have these situations again. How can you handle them better? So rather than failing, you learn from from those situations and opportunities, and you gotta reflect on, where did I freak out? Where did I lose my willpower, or what happened? So by taking these situations, breaking them down and understanding what happened, even if it was like the stupidest thing, that okay, I just went into the party and I just ate. Like it was like no brainer. Like that's what I did. So there was like a major event, but you actually take it and analyze it and break it down. Okay, you went to the party, but had you eaten on the entire day? Was in your mind, ever in your mind, to actually plan for it, so you weren't starving when you got into it? So it's more like getting people intentional and more purposeful as to what they do with their nutrition and how they do things without getting too over obsessed about it, but how that strategically can help them be much more present and being super successful as to, okay, I went into this party, I went into this social event, and I didn't overeat. I enjoy some things here and there, but I was actually present. I was actually there listening to the conversations, and I feel good about myself. So it's not like you finish it, or you go, you come home, and then you feel like a failure because you did everything you didn't want to do. So that is the biggest point. Just making sure that you start learning from those situations and making a better plan for upcoming ones.
Yeah, no, I love that. I think, like you said, instead of just thinking of it as a failure, hey, what can I learn from this? And then, like you said, these events or social events, or this period of time is going to come up again. So it's like, how can you manage it better next time? And then also, like you said, just get back onto your plan, right? Like that's the other big thing too. Don't dwell on it for too long. Just get back to what you were doing, and I'm sure things will come back down. And also, I think at the end of the day, I'm curious to hear your thoughts on this. Let's say this was over like a 2-4 week span. I feel like if you're still doing some things, you're still working out, it's like at the end of the day, how much like actual body fat can you realistically put on in that period of time as well, too? I think reframing it from that standpoint as well.
I agree. Yeah. So if you're someone who's usually active and you analyze at the end of the day how much your activity was versus what you ate, if you wouldn't have exercise, the damage could have been worse. Just like from the place of you are actually still implementing some strategies to offset some of those extra calories in a way. It's not that you should be earning your food or you should be trying to burn off the calories that you ate from the night before, but it's just continuing as much as possible, especially when it's like this silly season is called, because it seems like it's a little bit long. Like it starts from Thanksgiving and then it continues to rolls out, and there's a lot of parties and social events and Christmas parties at work, Christmas parties here, Christmas parties there. There's so many things snowballing that it feels like if you don't even have a plan, if you're not intentional about it, if you don't plan, then this can be a month and a half of destruction.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think too, like also, like you said there, just having some sort of game plan as well too is going to be super helpful. And also, I think this kind of goes back into what you mentioned earlier about the social events, like also not going into it, like you said, fasted, still trying to have some sort of, again, whether, okay, so you have an event at night, hey, maybe you have some sort of like breakfast or something that's more quote unquote nutrient dense or anything like that. So that way you're not going into it starving, right? Because on paper, it makes sense. Hey, just restrict throughout the day, then you can have more calories at night. But as you said, that plan typically backfires. So again, still being okay with not being 100% on plan, but still, like you said, again, like working out, exercising, those things are going to be helpful, and it's going to reduce the damage there on that. Was there anything else that you wanted to add to mentally dealing with some weight gain? Again, whether this is like just during the holiday season or just in general, do you have clients that struggle with this sometimes? Is there any?
Yeah, especially new clients that haven't been working with me for a long time, they will have a bit of a rough time as not as to expect, as they haven't actually gotten into learning the skills and learning all these things that I'm talking about. But when these kind of clients that are probably starting out, they don't even have a plan from the past. They were just doing whatever they knew they did have to do, and they were trying to just do diet here and there, track here and there, but they just weren't consistent. You need to start out from zero with them and just teaching them, okay, we don't have to be super aggressive. We don't have to do something. I know you really want to lose the weight you put on and you're desperate. You don't feel good about what the way you put on, but we can't just slash your calories and make you over exercise. So we need to make a plan and maybe forecast and see what is sustainable. So you are getting yourself for success from now. And if we need to go a little bit slower, but we're also working on other aspects of your relationship with food and your training and your exercise, then that's what we do.
Awesome. Yeah, no, I love that. So earlier you mentioned, again, we have training and nutrition, and then we have the mindset side of things. And you feel like that, again, we have to make sure that's all lined up. What are there any other kind of like mindset issues that you like commonly see that you really feel like hold a lot of people back? Are there maybe three that are just like very common that you'll see from clients there with that?
The biggest one is that all or nothing mindset, which is, I think, the most destructive one that I tend to see in every client. Like there's no one client that haven't got this all or nothing mindset. And we can understand it from the point that we want to do things right. We want to do it right. We want to be perfect. But the problem with that perfection and the mindset of this all or nothing is that it can be very damaging when you are unable to hit the targets, or when you have a couple of things you need to achieve on a daily basis, but there's a bad day. You just weren't feeling it, or something unexpected happened and you just couldn't do everything that was on your plan. So you feel like because everything was off the charts and off plan, you feel like, what's the point of trying to do something if I can't do it at all or 100%? And sometimes these situations that are unprecedented and unexpected extend over a day, let's say a week, say 2 weeks, maybe something that even happened for a month, and it just didn't allow you to do everything you were meant to be doing because it was in your plan. So what you do, you pretty much go into your default mode of fuck it. I just can't do this 100%. I am just not going to do anything at all. And then everything you had done over the past 3 months, all the effort, all the things that you put together to truly get to where you were, are just lost because of this approach. So my counter action for that is shifting that mindset to all or something, which means 1% every day, or even if you do less than 1%, or you do 10%, or maybe you can do 50%, it's going to make things still move in the right direction, even if it's not at the speed you wish you could go. But you are still moving in the right direction. Or could just be even that they prevent you from going backwards. Maybe you just stay where you're at. So that's, to me, is like the biggest thing that I try to work with my clients around, and teach them that it's okay to implement self-compassion, to be to be able to bring some gratitude, and understand that sometimes whatever you can do is much more than not doing anything at all. And understanding that if you have a bad day, rather than going into the rabbit hole of self-pity and, oh, I just had a bad luck and I just don't get things right, and there's been like a few days of I just start complaining and like getting into this black, I don't know, space, rather than trying to come out with just a little bit of light and practice some gratitude, or just highlighting that actually there are people that have it worse, and just understanding and be grateful for the things that you can have. So just being able to do a bit of journaling or self-reflection, or just prayers, or whatever helps you to continue to move in a direction where you can be positive, allows you to have that positivity amongst the darkness of what a day or a bad situation can bring.
Awesome. Yeah. So obviously all or nothing, like that's a huge one, right? Like you said there, where again, if you don't get it all right, then you let the whole everything fall apart. And I like the all or something, right? So again, you're always trying to do, something to move you forward, and at the very least not go backwards there on that. But that's tough, right? sometimes I still fall into that trap, from time to time with nutrition. And again, with clients, like I see it happen all the time, right? Oh, hey, I had one bad meal, and then that bad meal turns into a bad day. That bad day turns into a bad week. It's challenging, very challenging to work through that. Are there any other like mindset things that hold people back? Again, all or nothing, that's definitely one that I commonly see. Is there any others that you feel like are pretty common that you see with clients or just people online or anything like that?
I think it is the other one is the consistency,
Yeah.
because I've spoken with a lot of people and say like, hey, I put a lot of work and I do a lot of efforts, and I don't see that I'm moving in the right direction. I'm just always in the same place. Okay. So how many days of the week you do everything that you say you're doing? Because I promise you may not be doing this consistently 7 days a week. And when it comes to consistency, a lot of people think that just by doing 100% 4 days a week is just good enough to get results. The problem with that is that there are 3 additional days of the week that if you're doing 0% at all, or like if you think about calories, you're doing 1,200 calories for 3-4 days, and then suddenly over the weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, you overeat for 3,000, 4,000 calories. You probably were in a deficit the first 4 days, but the rest of the week pretty much completely offset your deficit. So you either back to square one, you never were in a deficit if we look at your calorie average of the week, or you're just potentially worse than at the beginning. There are weekend warriors, but there is also, this applies to training when it comes to grow muscle or do any approach, anything that we want to do with our physique or nutrition. You have to be consistent. If you do it 2 days a week or 4 days a week, it may not be enough. Now, it's not necessarily that you have to exercise every single day or diet super hard every day, but it's just knowing that this is something that doesn't end on this first week. You have to continue to show up. And the same that you did this week, you do it next week, and follow a structure, because that's another thing that I see a lot. So we as humans need some form of a structure and a routine. Even though we don't need a meal plan, you have to have a structure because your body likes a routine. Your body likes to function in a way that can systematize things that can happen on a regular basis on a natural way. So if you have appetite dysregulation because you skip meals one day, the other day you eat 1 meal a day, and the other day you eat 4 meals a day, your appetite have no clue when is the right time to eat. So you will just never have a proper appetite signal, and that could affect either you gaining weight if you're trying to put on muscle or trying to come out of an eating disorder, or on the other spectrum, if you want to lose weight but you don't really have an adequate rhythm for eating, that could be just a challenge as well. So it's just a matter of trying to find the structure that works for you, that you can be consistent with. And again, just bringing that consistency over and over. So I love utilizing 2 tools and 2 kind of frameworks. 80-20 rule, like I suppose a lot of people have heard about it. So 80% of the time to get 20% of the results, which is basically normally what we do. Or I think it was on the opposite. I don't know. I'm thinking of the wrong way. So you want to put, or you want to do things 80% of the time, and that 20% is okay to rest, for example, if we're looking or thinking about training. If we're talking about, even like when we're trying to think about nutrition or exercise, we just need 20% of the foods or the exercises to get 80% of the results. So it goes in one direction or the other, depending on how you want to look at it. And the more you are experienced in that area, because honestly, you don't need that much variety. You actually need just to find a couple of staples that you can consistently use, that reduces that dieting fatigue, that reduces that decision-making fatigue, and allows you just to nail things on a daily basis. Or when you're meal prepping, you're using 4 or 5 staples, you're putting them together, you have them for the rest of the week. Like, you don't have to put yourself into a risky place where you may miss meals or not be able to prep something because, oh, what I'm going to eat today. And then you have no clue what you're going to eat and you end up making decisions on the fly. So I guess this is one thing that I feel is important. And the other one that I was going to say is the 80-20 rule, and I like using a consistency calendar or a habit tracker. And with that, don't miss twice. If you track some of the things that you want to achieve on a consistent basis by trying to track them, and let's say there's something that you want to do on a daily basis consistently, like going to sleep and trying to sleep 8 hours and overnight, or eating mindfully, or hitting your protein targets, try to not miss twice. Okay, you'll have some bad days, but try to get some more ticks than X's on your calendar. And when you actually see the calendar for a month, you can see how consistent you were able to be for each category of the habits you want to form or the things you want to be consistent with. So if you start seeing more X's, then, okay, this is something I need to work on. So you start looking at from the big picture, you can start seeing from the macro how small things can add up when you do a lot of consistency. You can see some of these ticks, and I have been really consistent with that. I am good doing this. So I need to work more on this particular thing. And those things are very helpful to use.
Awesome. Yeah, no, I think that's really helpful from a mindset side of things. Because again, like you said, I think people over training nutrition protocols, those are super important. But I think sometimes people get a little bit too caught up in those, and some of these mindset side of things can really make or break your results. So I'm glad we went over them. One last question, 2 things before I let you go. So first, are you able to maybe hint at what you are working on for weightology this month? Again, I understand if you guys can't say anything until it comes out, but would be curious to hear any articles that you're working on there. And then finally, to wrap everything up, just let people know where they can find you and anything else that you're working on that you want to let the audience know about.
Yeah, I don't want to talk too much about the article that we're working on. This in articles we're working, the team is working on. I'm interested in reviewing, and I'm going to work with this next issue about this recent article that came out about the protein absorption.
Yeah.
And how we can absorb everything we eat from protein. And literally, even though it's not necessarily going to protein synthesis and to muscle, it is absorbed. And we can absorb more than 35 grams of protein for sure. So that is one thing.
Awesome.
And that is coming out on the 15th, 16th of January. And the other thing that I am working now with Clean Health is that I recently partnered with them, and I'm working on a guidebook that is going to put together that's how to master this missing link that is required for successful weight loss mastery when it comes to successful or maintaining your results over time, which is mindset, behavior change, and habits. So that is like where I'm going to be focusing on, and it's going to be a really great guidebook with practical tools for coaches to implement with their clients, exercises that they can do in their group coaching calls if they do group coaching or one-on-one coaching, and just have tools in their toolbox and how to implement them, reference to lots of different tools that will allow you to explore additional things with your clients that will take your coaching to a next level.
Awesome. Yeah, no, that's really cool. Again, like you said, that is the missing link, and we've been hinting at that throughout. Super cool. Astrid, really appreciate your time. A ton of great information in here. One final thing before I let you go, would you like to lead the audience to find out more about you? And yeah.
Dietitian. My Instagram, I think, is the major place where you can find me. I do have a YouTube channel where I put a lot of some tips, nutrition here and there, and also a lot of interviews with great people. So if you want to listen to those, feel free to go and have a look at that. And yeah, I have a website as well, and astrid-dietitian.com, which basically has a few resources that I have developed, that I created, that pretty much cover everything that I mentioned to you about. A strategic meal planning the choice method is something that I developed that talks about a more flexible way to meal plan that has much less rigidity and much more options that people, like anyone, coaches or Gen Pop, can utilize to better meal plan. And I've got a consistency calendar, lots of different tips on there here and there to just calculate your macros, or I don't know. There's a lot of things in there. So just go and check it out.
Yeah. We'll make sure we link the website. We'll link your Instagram as well too. And again, Astrid, really appreciate your time, and we will have you on here again in the future. Talk to you soon.
Thank you so much.